All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're digging into one of the most incredible and mysterious structures in the entire Old Testament, the biblical tabernacle. Now, on the surface, it's a portable tent, a sanctuary, but as you're about to see, it was so much more than that. Okay, let's get right into it. This one sentence, right here, this is the whole reason for everything we're about to talk about. It's the mission statement, you could say, the core directive from God to Moses. This was never about building some grand monument to be admired from afar. No, the whole point was to create a very specific, very real space for the divine to live, to dwell, right in the middle of everybody. And that idea of God dwelling among his people, that's the key to understanding the whole thing. So, picture this. The Israelites are out in the Sinai desert. They've just renewed their covenant, their sacred agreement with God. And their very next project is a big one. The goal? To take that spiritual promise and make it physical. To build a place where God's presence would be, tangible, right there on earth with them. And get this wasn't something they just dreamed up. The design wasn't left to human creativity or imagination. The text is super clear about this. Every single detail, from the size of the curtains to the type of wood, was part of a divine blueprint. A pattern shown directly to Moses up on the mountain. That fact alone tells you just how sacred and important this project was. A divine plan is one thing, but how on earth do you actually build something this intricate in the middle of the desert? Well, this is what's so interesting. It wasn't funded by a king or built by slaves. It was a massive, voluntary, community-wide effort. It's really crucial to understand that these materials, all this gold, silver, these beautiful, expensive fabrics, they weren't collected like a tax. The people brought them willingly, freely. It was framed as an act of pure gratitude, a way to say thank you to the God who had just rescued them from slavery in Egypt. It was a collective act of worship before a single piece of the structure was even put together. Okay, so it's built. Now for the really cool part. Let's take a tour. You have to understand, the tabernacle was designed as a journey. It had 3 different areas, and each one you entered got you closer to the center, to a more intense level of holiness. So let's walk through it together. Think of this as our map. We start in the outer court, the most public area. From there, we'll go deeper, through a curtain, into the holy place, where only priests could go. And finally, we'll go behind one last veil into the most sacred space of all, the most holy place where God's very presence would dwell. So here we go, we're stepping inside. The first area you come to is the outer court. It's this large open-air courtyard surrounded by these tall linen curtains. And here in this outer area, you'd find 2 major items. First, the brazen altar. This is where all the animal sacrifices happened for the forgiveness of sin. And second, there's the laver, which was a big bronze basin filled with water. Priests had to wash themselves here before they could go any further. You see the theme? It's all about preparation, purification, before you can approach a holy God. Now, passing through that first curtain, we step into the actual tent itself. This is the holy place. No ordinary person could come in here. This space was reserved for the priests, a room dedicated to the continuous daily service to God. And inside this room were 3 incredibly symbolic pieces of furniture. You had the table of shewbread with 12 loaves of bread, 1 for each of Israel's tribes, representing a constant fellowship with God. Then there was the famous golden menorah, a 7-branched candlestick that was the only source of light in the room. And right before the next veil, you had the altar of incense, where incense was burned day and night, symbolizing the prayers of the people always rising up to God. And now, we arrive at the very heart of the entire structure. Behind a second beautifully woven veil lies the most holy place, or the Holy of Holies. This room was a perfect cube, and it was considered the most sacred spot on the entire planet. It was so holy that only one person, the high priest, could enter, and he could only do it once a year on the Day of Atonement. And inside, there was just one thing, the Ark of the Covenant. This was the golden box that held the stone tablets with the Ten Commandments, and its lid, called the mercy seat, which had these two golden angels on top, was understood to be God's actual throne on earth. This was the epicenter of his presence. So, the whole thing is built. Every detail is perfect, just like the blueprint. But there's one huge question still hanging in the air. Would God accept it? Would he actually show up? What happens next is the dramatic climax of the whole story. The answer was immediate and completely undeniable. The moment the tabernacle was finished, the glory of the Lord, a visible physical presence, descended as a cloud and filled the tent. Can you imagine seeing that? This was the ultimate confirmation, the sign that yes, God had truly come to dwell among them. And from that moment on, that cloud wasn't just for show. It took on an incredibly practical role. It basically became Israel's divine GPS. If the cloud lifted up and started to move, that was the signal. Everyone would pack up the entire tabernacle, the whole camp, and follow it. When the cloud stopped, they stopped and set up camp again. God wasn't just dwelling with them in a stationary temple. He was actively leading their journey. So we've looked at what the tabernacle was and how they built it. But to really get it, we have to ask the big question. Why does any of this matter today? Well, because it was way, way more than just a historical tent. From a Christian perspective, this is where it all clicks. The symbolism of the tabernacle finds its ultimate meaning in the New Testament. The Gospel of John says that Jesus dwelt among us. Now, here's the amazing part. The original Greek word used there is skino, and it literally means to pitch a tent or to tabernacle. The implication is just massive, that the physical tent was a shadow, a symbol, pointing forward to a person who would become the ultimate living way for all of humanity to be in the presence of God. And that brings us to this final thought. The tabernacle is just one incredible example of this really deep, universal human need, isn't it? This need to build physical homes for our most important abstract ideas, things like justice or faith or memory. Think about courthouses or temples or war memorials. It makes you wonder, what is it about creating a physical space that makes the unseen feel real, present, and permanent in our lives? It's a question that connects this ancient tent in the desert to a need we all still feel today.